Question.
How does someone cope with their creativity if they're not one of the chosen ones?
Shall I rephrase that so everybody can? How does someone cope with their creativity if they're not one of the chosen ones?
I don't know. Let me start with the disclaimer.
No, come on, tap into that spiritual part.
Well, who are the chosen ones?
And who are the chosen ones? It's not my question.
Okay, yeah.
But it's a good question.
It's a good question.
I'm owning it.
Chosen ones. Well, there are a couple of different phrases for the chosen ones. The chosen ones are everyone and no one, first and foremost, because everybody has the ability to be a chosen one, I believe. What happens is a lot of time the structures. Okay, you might. Gosh, here we go. The patriarchal structures. The structures of society that coming back. I believe in boundaries. Boundaries are a good thing.
Yeah.
Rules are not necessarily the same as boundaries. Boundaries are a way of, as a child, you have to have boundaries. Kids who don't have boundaries have an issue as an adult. And I've dealt with many of them, especially in the whole nightclub land. That's where you will see the detritus of that. So dealing with the chosen ones are the people who sometimes society says, oh, this is a person, and it can only be this person. When I was a model, I went to a lot of agencies, and they were like, oh yeah, you're fabulous, don't come to the agency. I'd come in like, oh my God, you're beautiful, but we already have another black guy. Or we already have another ethnic. Because there was the thought that there could only be one. And partly because I was quite raised in my culture. Of Jamaica, the slogan is out of many, one people. So there was never a thought to me that there can only be one type. So dealing with the chosen ones are the ones who a lot of times people in the wider society say, oh, this is the only type of people, oh, this is a person, let's all copy that. And dealing with that is quite frustrating as an artist because you're maintaining your work, doing your bit, and attempting to get recognized. And a lot of times if you don't fit into those molds, you won't get recognized. But one of my mentors said to me, brought up the bit about Nick Drake, I believe is 70s guitarist and stuff, who I believe he killed himself or died mysteriously. And he was saying that how he was of the counterculture in those days, and he was saying that how he knew him, and everybody was like, oh, your music is great, but he was quite tortured, this guy, and then passed on, and that everybody, you know, he had a problem because his parents were quite, I don't want to get myself in trouble with the estate or something, but just that whole thing of where people expected a lot of him. And now that he's passed, he supports the family because all his work, which wasn't necessarily accepted at the time, is now supporting generations. Or Jimi Hendrix, where his family now, he was able to support his family. So it's sometimes really difficult because I definitely want it within my lifetime. But I also have to, where Morgan Freeman, to give an example, was part of the Negro Theater in New York City, did a lot of off-Broadway stuff, taught and everything, but most people know of Morgan Freeman from Driving Miss Daisy. And that was when he was in his 50s, 60s. So there may be that might be the cycle. But yeah, that's one way forward. Did I answer the question about
the chosen one?
Did that make sense?
Kind of.
Well, what I was trying to get at, sorry to is you're an artist, you're working towards your goal. Then you got some other dudes, like say you build a temple. And then some other cat, who's the chosen one, builds like a matchbox, and it was like, oh, the matchbox. You know, but how do you cope with that
I just think that I've been blessed. I've been blessed with
Answer the question with the question, sorry.
Okay. The wonderful things about being to deal with being a chosen one, who is the person who's been accepted and said that their work is great, and then you're doing something that might be similar or even more expansive than that, but you're not getting a look at.
Yeah.
And it is extremely difficult. It's a sense of frustration to me and numerous of my artistic friends. But the truth of the matter is, if you don't continue to add, if the pond doesn't get fresh water, it stagnates and dies. If I don't stay creative, I will stagnate and die.
So not being the chosen one, even though it could be difficult,
and it's
but
also,
you can be too associated with being that chosen one, so you never move forward creatively.
Yeah.
And also, and rejection actually might propel you more further than the person that's been accepted.
yeah, and
Like
also
the headstone.
Yeah, exactly. And also with some of the chosen ones, I know a few people who are the chosen ones,
Yeah.
and they are actually trapped.
That's what I'm saying,
It
yeah.
becomes a prison for them that they cannot move on.
The key, yeah.
Because they're so known for that thing they did then.
One-hit wonder.
Yeah, or even many hits, but they're known for that thing that they did then. That when an artist is constantly growing and expanding, and when they move on, then it's like, well, what are you doing? How dare you go and do that? We only like you doing this
We want you
thing.
to do soul and you're doing a bit of rock or experiential or folk music.
Yeah,
We want you to keep.
I completely had that with some people I used to work with, where I changed up a song, and I've developed on my skills and stuff, and I started playing it differently. Or my pattern that I do on stage, I changed up the pattern. They were like, "You didn't introduce me like you did last week or 2 weeks ago," and I was like, "But I'm dealing with a whole nother crowd." So I am playing to the crowd, and I'm working with that, and that's how I MC.
So do you think that the chosen one functions best, the so-called chosen one? Did we answer your question? Good. The so-called chosen one then, if they're not careful, so this, I mean, when you are chosen, are you following somebody else's?
That's what I was saying about the whole thing where a lot of people will try to put their expectations upon you.
Yeah.
And you'll find yourself stuck in running into, I call it the hamster around the wheel, running to do it, but actually not going anywhere.
Yeah.
You're still on the wheel going, I'm doing it. Parched. You know? and not actually really going forward. And then and you'll see it across everywhere, every single field, every discipline, where then those people become almost like vampires.
I was about to say that, yeah.
Because they need new stimulation, but they can't necessarily do the stimulation themselves.
And also, could it be because of a lot what they're saying they're running, they've got contractual obligations and other stuff that's keeping them in that mode, and now they're playing to somebody else's tune.
Yeah.
So they're no longer the creative force, they're a vessel for somebody else's agenda.
Yeah, definitely. Dave Chappelle
Yeah.
spoke about that. He has a series on YouTube, and there was an interview with him at the Actors Studio, and he spoke about that. Mariah Carey.
Well, brilliant
Exactly.
example, yeah.
But, you know, there was a lot of pressure put on her. She was one of the highest earning and highest paid musicians and stuff. Had, you know, to today, so many of her clones and all that. And it was just the pressure of like, you need to be like this. And, you know, she's from New York. She's a girl from New York. And she talks like she's from New York. You know? Yeah. And then there was this whole thing that she had to be this, you know, pretty dolly bird, which is not taking anything away from her beauty.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily all of her personality.
Yeah.
And Whitney Houston, her public persona was very, very street and very proper and very, you know, very quite straight. But now, unfortunately, after her death, all of the words, you know, the things come through. But she was also a very urban girl.
Yeah. New Jersey.
Yeah, she's from New Jersey. She was a very urban girl, and had grown up in that environment. So I think that sometimes, or it's like certain rappers who are actually very middle class guys.
Yeah.
And have a steady background, have had a steady family background and economic background for generations in their family. But they're from the hood, they're street, and all this stuff. And it's not to say that if you're from that you can't speak about the street, because there's things that you're going to see, and there may be those circles around you that you're still dealing with. But it's also disingenuous to go, well, because I need to get paid, I'm going to play this role, and it's all going to be this hood. And I think that there is a place for, as HKB Finn said, there is a place for other stories to come out.
Yeah.
That we are all not just a stereotype, just a litmus. The paper doll, we are all not paper dolls. And just like the one thing I love about my paper dolls is changing up the clothes and everything, and making new styles, and then putting a new personality with that style. There are many different stories, and in the diaspora of the world, and those stories do need to be heard, because one of the greatest things that compliments I got was when someone said I was a female Gil Scott-Heron, and of the ability to have people just read his words, but of people now who are reading his words when the revolution will not be televised, and you have many people doing many different covers and variations on that. But he wrote that back in the 60s.
Yes.
And although some of the topical names might not be prevalent, but what he was talking about is still prevalent today. And that's the reason why Shakespeare is because you can go back and read Shakespeare, and that stuff will be as make as much sense then as it does today.
Yeah, that's really key. And that's about being, authentic. Because authentic is timeless. Authenticity is timeless.
Exactly. Can I give a high five for that? But that's the thing with the Chosen Ones. It's definitely about the offense. Water will win out.
Yeah.
So that authenticity. The thing about it is you can't take it away. You can break down the chocolate to its the seed, but it's still chocolate.
Exactly.
It's bitter and stronger at the seed than it is necessarily at the process where it's been processed out.
And it's giving other people pleasure, but it's that seed that it comes from to create various different things.
To the hot chocolate, to the milk chocolate, to everything.
Yeah, brilliant. That is excellent. So have you got a website?
Yes.